a popular doctor who finds himself stuck in a time loop as he repeatedly struggles to save his daughter from dying in an accident. However, after many failed attempts to save her, the doctor makes a chilling discovery that sheds light in his dark past, uncovering disturbing secrets that would later change everything. Hey guys, welcome back to I Am Movies. Today we're looking into the 2017 South Korean mystery thriller film called A Day. But before we jump into the details, make sure to show us some love by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Now let's get right into it. The movie begins as a popular doctor named Kim Jun-young flies back to South Korea after volunteering with the UN for 3 months. During his flight back, Dr. Kim wakes up from his sleep, and a young flight attendant asks him to sign an autograph for her on a magazine carrying his photograph. Although reluctant, Dr. Kim's assistant Yong-sun convinces him to indulge the flight attendant and even takes a photo of them together. Afterward, Yong-sun tells Dr. Kim how much they need the publicity, reminding him that they are running out of donations. Immediately after landing, Dr. Kim realizes that his 10-year-old daughter Yoon-jung hasn't replied to any of his texts, but he proceeds to send her another text stating how worried he is. Dr. Kim's relationship with his daughter has since been bad because Yoon-jung believes her father doesn't have time for her. Meanwhile, Yoon-jung, who is returning from school, tells her friends that her father is a popular doctor, and he's been away for a while. However, they refuse to believe her, stating that they've never seen him on TV. Subsequently, Yoon-jung's friends tell her how caring their fathers are, and she soon becomes sad, adding that it's even her birthday that day. Afterward, Yoon-jung sees a call from her dad, but she ignores it. Meanwhile, as Dr. Kim continues to call his daughter's phone, Yong-sun expresses his frustration at him because he refuses to take advantage of his fame by using the VIP exit. He had also rejected the UN's business class ticket, choosing to remain humble. On their way out through the regular exit, they come across a woman crying for help as her son chokes on a piece of candy. Dr. Kim quickly rushes over and successfully helps the boy cough out the candy. With this, Yong-sun hails Dr. Kim, and people gradually begin to recognize him as the famous Dr. Kim. However, Dr. Kim refuses to stay behind for any autographs or photos, as he excuses himself to call his daughter again, but she still ignores his call. With this, Yong-sun gives Dr. Kim a box of chocolate to gift his daughter, and also advises him to consider appearing on TV to make her proud, and prove that he's a great father. At the exit, Dr. Kim is shocked to see a press of journalists waiting to interview him, and he immediately realizes that Yong-sun had planned it behind him. As Dr. Kim gets interviewed at the airport, Eun-jung and her friends see him, and she smiles proudly as she watches him speak, realizing that her friends will now believe her. During the interview, Dr. Kim mentioned that he volunteered to work for the UN because his daughter, Yoon-jung, almost died 3 years ago. However, Yong-sun quickly interrupts him, stopping him from revealing more details. With this, Yoon-jung feels embarrassed and her friends begin to laugh at her. Yoon-jung decides to finally text her father, expressing how embarrassed she felt after his interview, and Dr. Kim immediately apologizes to her. Afterward, Yoon-jung accepts his apology when he promised to meet her at a pasta restaurant by noon with her birthday gifts. Moments later, Dr. Kim hurriedly drives to meet his daughter. On the way, Dr. Kim encounters a minor delay as the toll booth lady mistakenly drops his change, making him wait for her to rearrange it. As Dr. Kim gets closer to the meeting spot, he sees a taxi that has just been involved in an accident, and he quickly stops to help. Dr. Kim rushes over to check on the driver and pulls him out of the car. Soon, Dr. Kim asks one of the paramedics for a suction device for the driver, and as he proceeds to check on other passengers, he discovers a dead woman in the back seat. Shortly after, an ambulance arrives at the scene, and Dr. Kim is informed by one of the paramedic guys that another victim is lying across the road. With this, Dr. Kim decides to call Yoon-jung to inform her that he would be running late. However, a man picks up the call telling him that she's been involved in an accident. Afterward, Dr. Kim realizes that the response is coming from one of the paramedic guys, and that's when he realizes that the victim of the car crash is his daughter, Yoon-jung. However, before Dr. Kim could react or say anything, he immediately finds himself back on the plane, and the flight attendant soon comes to ask him for an autograph. Realizing that he has experienced this before, Dr. Kim flows with the events, and can't cease to be amazed at the way things unfold before his eyes all over again. With this, Dr. Kim is able to predict that the boy will choke on his candy, and he rushes over to help. During the press conference, Dr. Kim appears nervous and refuses to say anything, as he struggles to understand what is going on. While in his car, he receives the same message he had received from Yoon-jung, stating how embarrassed she feels about the press conference. However, this time Dr. Kim tries to make Yoon-jung stay where she is, promising to come pick her up, but she instead insists on meeting him by noon at a pasta restaurant. To avert the accident, Dr. Kim calls Yoon-jung's phone while driving, but she refuses to pick up. At the toll booth, Dr. Kim abandons his change just to make it to the scene earlier, but on getting to the scene, he realizes that he's a bit late, seeing that the accident has already happened. As Dr. Kim attempts to kneel in front of Yoon-jung's body, he once again finds himself back on the plane. However, this time Dr. Kim is determined to beat the time. So while on his way out, he quickly rushes over to the boy and grabs his candy before he puts it in his mouth. Dr. Kim decides to use the VIP exit this time, managing to escape the press conference. Afterward, Dr. Kim texts Yoon-jung that he'll be canceling their meeting to make sure she doesn't head toward the pasta restaurant. However, while on his way, Yoon-jung calls him to express how disappointed she is, stating that she feels lonely without him, and insists that she'll wait for him at the spot till he comes to get her. However, before Dr. Kim could say anything, she hung up the call and refused to pick up his calls afterward. With this, Dr. Kim drives extremely fast, and even decides to take a one-way route, but he soon gets blocked by a car coming from the other way, making him arrive late to the scene once again. Back on the plane, Dr. Kim uses the same tactics, but this time manages to divert to a different street, while using the one-way lane. However, he later crashes into a building and his car gets stuck. With this, Dr. Kim decides to continue his journey on foot, and he even arrives later than expected, as it appears that Yoon-jung's body has already been taken away. Once again, Dr. Kim arrives at the accident scene, but this time, he heads straight for the taxi driver's phone and copies his number. In the next loop reset, Dr. Kim calls the taxi driver to warn him about the accident, but the driver hangs up on him. With this, Dr. Kim tries using an unfinished road to get to the scene early, but he is only able to witness the accident from a distance. Soon, Dr. Kim breaks down beside his daughter's body as he begins to blame himself for always arriving late. However, a man named Min-chul suddenly pulls Dr. Kim by his shirt, stating that he's been experiencing the loop and that he'd noticed Dr. Kim has been the only one acting differently in each event. Min-chul happens to be the same paramedic that Dr. Kim spoke to in the beginning. It appears that Min-chul had also found his wife Mi-kyung dead at the back of the taxi and also been stuck in the loop as he repeatedly tries to save her, but keeps failing. Min-chul's loop routine starts in the morning when he wakes up and calls his wife, but she doesn't pick up. He would then drive as fast as he can to the scene, but he always arrives late to find his wife dead. Afterward, he decides to try finding her moments before the incident, but he can't as no one knows about her location. After revealing his ordeal, Min-chul begs Dr. Kim to help him, and Dr. Kim suggests that they meet to discuss their next line of action in the next loop. Dr. Kim and Min-chul meet up to discuss what they can do to stop the accident. Now, knowing that Yoon-jung wouldn't pick up his calls, Dr. Kim uses the press conference to send a message to her, telling her to meet him at Central Park instead of the pasta restaurant. Afterward, Dr. Kim also calls Min-chul's wife to warn her, but she ends the call abruptly before he can say anything, and the accident still happens. At this point, Dr. Kim and Min-chul believe that the loop will only end if they successfully save Yoon-jung and Mi-kyung respectively. Now, while Dr. Kim changes his meeting location with Yoon-jung to Central Park, Min-chul decides to find and stop the taxi driver, by all means. To do this, he hits his head with a brick and goes to the police station to report a fake hit-and-run case, revealing the plate number of the taxi to the police. While waiting for the police to find and stop the taxi driver, Min-chul reflects on the argument he had with Mi-kyung earlier that day. They argued about having a baby, but Mi-chul had suggested that they wait until he got promoted, stating that he's not financially ready to cater for a child. This made Mi-kyung sad, and she had since refused to pick up his calls. Meanwhile, after searching for the taxi driver for a while, the police revealed to Min-chul that they couldn't find him. Min-chul, seeing that the time is now past 12, anxiously asks if there had been any accidents at Park Moon High School Junction, and they tell him no. Dr. Kim, who had also arrived at the scene earlier, is also surprised to see that there is no accident. Soon he gets a text from Yoon-jung, stating that she's now at the park. On hearing this, Dr. Kim quickly goes to the park to meet her, but he later realizes she's on the other side of the park. At the same time, a police officer spots the suspected taxi at a traffic stop, but the driver manages to escape from the police. On hearing about the escape through his ambulance's intercom, Min-chul tries to call Dr. Kim to warn him that the taxi is heading towards the park, but can't reach him. Meanwhile, Dr. Kim receives a call from the taxi driver himself, who reveals that he'd watched his press conference, revealing that he knows that he changed the meeting location to Central Park. The taxi driver further reveals that Yoon-jung should have died 3 years ago, and immediately ends the call. With this, Dr. Kim begins to frantically search for his daughter in the park, looking at every little girl that looks similar. Moments later, Dr. Kim spots Yoon-jung across the road, but the taxi approaches at top speed, making Dr. Kim act fast and puts himself in between Yoon-jung and the taxi, and the day suddenly resets once again. After waking up, Min-chul calls Dr. Kim, revealing that the taxi driver is intentionally killing both Yoon-jung and Mi-kyung for a reason. Min-chul further adds that he realized Mi-kyung was already dead before the crash. With this, they both realize that the taxi driver is also experiencing the loop, which is why they find it hard to stop him. With this, the two men decide to find out more about the taxi driver, to know why he's killing Mi-kyung and Yoon-jung. Now, since the taxi driver mentioned meeting Dr. Kim 3 years ago, Dr. Kim decided to check for information about him from the hospital where he used to work 3 years ago. At the hospital, Dr. Kim realizes who the taxi driver really is. 3 years ago, Yoon-jung had a terminal heart disease that required her to have a heart transplant. However, on the day of Yoon-jung's transplant, the donor's family backs out of the program, leaving Dr. Kim devastated. However, that same stormy night, Min-chul got distracted while driving and caused a car to crash. After the car crash, Min-chul had driven the victims, who happened to be a father and his son, to the same hospital where Yoon-jung was waiting for a heart transplant. After hearing that the boy Lee Ha-ru had arrived brain dead at the hospital, Dr. Kim sees this as an opportunity, prompting him to force the father, who had been in a coma, to sign the heart transplant consent form, which gives him access to get Lee Ha-ru's heart for Yoon-jung. Back in the present, Min-chul visits the station and immediately knocks out a police officer with a brick, and then proceeds to use the police database to search for information on the taxi driver. Min-chul soon gets arrested by the police, but before the loop can reset, he manages to get the name of the taxi driver, Lee Kang-sik. Now, Lee Kang-sik, the father of Lee Ha-ru, is also in the loop, as he repeatedly wakes up in a sad state, seeing the news of Dr. Kim's return to the country, and at the same time plans his revenge. Meanwhile, with Lee Kang-sik's information, Dr. Kim locates his house and soon discovers several newspapers about himself, and even a copy of the heart transplant consent documents from 3 years ago. Min-chul also meets him there and confronts him about what he did. Meanwhile, as the loop repeatedly reset, Min-chul continues to devise ways to find his wife before the crash, but he can't find her, even after repeatedly trying to force Lee Kang-sik to tell him at the crash site. On the other hand, Dr. Kim gives up on trying and decides to just sit in his car to watch Yoon-jung's video from 3 years ago. After several resets, Dr. Kim meets with Min-chul and reveals that the only way to stop Lee Kang-sik is to apologize to him. However, Min-chul disagrees, stating that he only needs to look for his wife before the crash, and angrily leaves, vowing to find and kill Lee Kang-sik, even if it takes him years to do so. Later, Min-chul sees a calendar in his room, and from it he realizes that Mi-kyung's menstrual cycle had stopped 3 months ago. He then knows that Mi-kyung must have visited to a hospital. With this, Min-chul begins to call and check different hospitals in an attempt to find his wife. On the other hand, Dr. Kim steals Lee Kang-sik's body from the crash site. After reviving Lee Kang-sik, Dr. Kim apologizes to him and asks that he spare Yoon-jung and kill him instead. However, Lee Kang-sik disagrees and vows to kill Yoon-jung over and over again. Shortly after, Dr. Kim receives a call from Min-chul, who reveals to him that the day is lasting than usual. But the police arrived and arrested Dr. Kim. While on the floor, he realized what triggers the loop. It's when Lee Kang-sik dies, the day resets. In the next loop, Min-chul finds Mi-kyung in the hospital, and sadly overhears her talk about terminating her pregnancy, prompting him to realize how sad she must have been. Afterward, Min-chul informs Dr. Kim that he has found Mi-kyung and also reveals his plans to kill Lee Kang-sik. Dr. Kim tries to warn him against it, but he ends the call. With this, Dr. Kim remembers memorizing Lee Kang-sik's number, and he immediately calls him to warn him about the attack. Moments later, Min-chul steps into the taxi, and he attacks Lee Kang-sik with a knife. As the two begin to fight, Lee Kang-sik reveals that his son would have survived the crash if Min-chul didn't abandon them for hours before later taking them to the hospital. But Min-chul disregards hearing this and determined to kill Lee Kang-sik, but he manages to expel Min-chul from the car and drives off to kill Yoon-jung. At the same time, Dr. Kim hurriedly drives to the junction and arrives just in time, managing to save his daughter by putting his car between Yoon-jung and the taxi, causing the taxi to flip over. After taking Yoon-jung to a safe spot, Dr. Kim quickly rushes over to save Lee Kang-sik from the crash, knowing that if he dies, the time loop will reset. Regardless of this, Lee Kang-sik continues to vow to kill Yoon-jung if he survives. However, Dr. Kim tells him that if he kills Yoon-jung, he will equally be killing his son Ha-ru, since Ha-ru's heart beats inside Yoon-jung. At this time, Min-chul angrily drives towards them at high speed in an attempt to crush Lee Kang-sik, but Dr. Kim manages to pull him out before the impact. Relentless, Min-chul takes his knife and struggles to walk as he attempts to kill Lee Kang-sik, but Dr. Kim wrestles him to the ground, begging him to let Lee Kang-sik live. During the struggle, Dr. Kim gets stabbed in the stomach and watches helplessly as Lee Kang-sik approaches Yoon-jung. At this time, it appears that Yoon-jung remembers Lee Kang-sik from the hospital and remembers going to him, thanking him for giving her Lee Ha-ru's heart. With the realization that his son is still alive inside Yoon-jung, he hugs her. Moments later, Dr. Kim's car is about to explode, but Lee Kang-sik chooses to hold on to Yoon-jung and protects her from the explosion, causing the loop to reset. However, this time Lee Kang-sik only visits Yoon-jung to spend some time with her. During this time, he realizes that a part of Lee Ha-ru truly lives in Yoon-jung. Hearing that Yoon-jung hates chocolate before, but after the operation she has grown to love chocolate, which is his son's favorite food. This makes Lee Kang-sik emotional. In the meantime, Minchul meets Mi-kyung outside the hospital, and he tearfully apologizes to her for everything. He then receives a text from Lee Kang-sik, saying I'm sorry. Mi-kyung then mentioned that they are having a baby girl. Minchul tells her they will name her Haru. At the same time, in the airport, Dr. Kim apologizes during his press conference for what he did 3 years ago to Lee Kang-sik, and he later sends him a text that says thank you. And this is where our story ends. If you'd like to see us recap any other movies or topics you have in mind, just drop a comment and let us know. And don't forget to hit the like button, share this recap, and subscribe to stay updated for the next one. Until next time.